Welcome, welcome. Today is June 20th, and if you don't know, it is officially the first day of summer. How about them apples? It's the first day of summer. That's just so exciting. It feels like it's been summer for quite some time here in Dallas, Texas, but it is officially the first day of summer all over. And I know if you're like me, I love summer. I absolutely love summer. So, although I will say as I get older, I love spring and I love fall, and it'd be a hard toss up, but winter, hands down, is my least favorite. Although you got the holidays and anyway. All right, so as in my usual fashion, we have way over planned for tonight. We have way too much, but that's okay. It's all great stuff. And because we're talking tonight about great pajamas and what we wear around the house, I called it indoor outdoor clothing. I have my pajamas on, so that's appropriate, right? I have my pajamas on. So we're just going to have all kinds of fun tonight. Basically, I want to go through the rules of patterns as they apply to pajama. I'm going to use pajamas as examples, but I hope we'll just have a wonderful time tonight. You'll ask questions. We'll just have fun. Okay, so we're going to start with our traditional questions and answers. Hope everybody is well. I forgot. Sorry, Brett update. We should know soon if Brett's cancer free or still has cancer. So we're just waiting, hoping, everything's crossed that can be crossed. And but I will tell you that he's feeling stronger. And while he's feeling stronger. He really is feeling stronger. And he's getting a little bit of stubble on his head. That's kind of exciting. At least around here, we just. All right, so it's all good. Oh, how's everybody? Good? Questions? It's been busy. My goodness, has it been busy? We've had great fabrics. You all love the fabrics. We put them up, we take them down. We put them up, we take them down. They sell out. So that's all good news. If you have not bought fabric from us, oh my gosh, take a chance. Take a risk. I don't think you'll be disappointed, and it's good stuff. We're shipping it all over the world, you guys. So that's really exciting. All right, so we're going to start. Questions? Anybody? That means you are all so smart. You have no questions. That's really exciting. Really exciting. I know that's somebody I know bought a new sewing machine. That's really exciting. It takes time because you got to get to know your new machine, but once you do, it's really exciting to update because the new machines have so many additional advantages and they just help us sew faster. So that's a good thing. When you make a pattern with knit lining, knit linen, knit linen, knit linen. Two reasons you use grain. You're going to have to answer your own question because I don't know what it looks like, but there's only two reasons you use grain. Number one is for the drape, and number two is for visual effects. So if that knit linen has a visual effect like linen does, you'll want it to be straight of grain, not because it needs to be for the hang, but because it needs to be for the physical appearance of how the garment will look once it's made up. Okay? I just lost 40 pounds. Congratulations, 40 pounds. Just yesterday did you lose it, or you've been kind of going down? 40 pounds, that's really exciting. I don't have any clothes to fit me. No, 40 pounds is a half of a third of a person. How do I pick a pattern size to start with? So there's two ways you can do this. You can trial and error, which will take you a lot of time, or you just go shopping. Remember, the back of all of our patterns are finished garment measurements, so you wouldn't be measuring you anyway, but you've got to go shopping. You've got to try on. What I find for a lot of women who lose weight, they still think they're bigger than they physically are. So you really, to save you and be the most efficient, I would go shopping. I would try things on and go to the expensive stores. Try on really good stuff and take a tape measure with you and just physically measure the clothing. Physically measure that clothing. So then you can come right back to the patterns. All the patterns are in one size, and that is simply the fastest way to do it. And otherwise, if you say, oh, I'm 36 and I might like a 40, and you try a 40 and you don't like it, you've wasted all that time. It's much more efficient to go shopping at the store. Oh, knit lining. Knit lining doesn't have a grain. So knits don't have grain. So that's mute point on that one. Do you have a pants pattern where the legs flare below the knee? Yeah, the yoga pant. The yoga pant, and also that's a knit pattern, and also 3600 is called Ralph's pant, and it's a Ralph Lauren base, and Ralph Lauren has a very tapered thigh, and then it flares and gets wider at the bottom. So either 34 if you want a knit, or 36 if you want a woven. Both are just great pants. Great fitting, great look, very nice. I've made pattern 313, Terry's shawl collar v-neck, and the back collar stands away from the body. Is this the way it's supposed to be? If not, how do I correct? It does stand away from the body a little bit. If it's bothersome to you, you're going to slash through the back around the shoulder blade area horizontally and add at the back. Don't change the collar, don't change the neckline, but just slash through the shoulder blade area of the back horizontally, taper to nothing at the armhole, and add about an inch right there at that slash point. If it's not bothersome to you, leave it. If it bothers you, probably bothers you because you asked, go ahead and slash it and add the inch. How can you add a fuller skirt when making a dress from the tank top? If you are going, look, this is pattern making versus putting patterns together. If you're not sure of the tank top and how to go straight and how to make it fuller, take a skirt that you like and just stick it on at the waist. So make a tank top to the waist and then whatever skirt you want to the bottom. That's just the easiest way possible. All they have to do is meet at the waist, and if they don't, you can widen it out at the tank top, the top of the waist of the tank top. That's probably the easiest way for me to explain that to you without going into pattern making. We want to know the rules of patterns, but any email that I get that people go in and want me to tell them how to make a certain pattern they find, I don't do it. It's not what we do. We're happy to aid in fitting. We're happy to help you. We have pattern making DVDs, but as far as for me trying to tell you via email how to make a pattern, it just can't happen. It can't happen correctly. So we don't do that. So I would go and try to find a skirt you like or the fullness you like and then put it on the bottom of the tank, and I think that's the easiest way to do that. Let me give you a good example. 2750 is a flare, so you could take 2750, the skirt, and put it on the bottom of 500. And even if you don't know what 2750 is, Amy's skirt, look it up and then put the pieces together, and then you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay? Alright, I want to make yoga pants or a skirt for summer in black or dark color. What fabric would you recommend? Pontoroma. Absolutely, Pontoroma. Pontoroma goes year-round. And if you haven't done it yet, it sounds to me like it's almost the first go-around. I would do the Pontoroma. It's not real expensive, and it'll kind of get your hand into working with it, and it's a great fabric for all year round. I have these are my pajamas. I use Pontoroma, but I do a capri length, and I love them because they're a little cooler. I don't think they're really cooler. They just don't have the bottoms on them, and I think I like that. I just got the core zipper top pattern. This is my first silhouette pattern. I don't have a top like that in my closet, so how do I go about determining my proper size if I don't have one similar? That is a good question, because when we do finished garment measurements, we do all that ease, and so it's full. General ease when worn on a female body is 1.5 to 1. So if you took the back, and let's say it's a 60 inches in the back, you really could put that on a 40 bust because it's 1 to 1.5 is the ease. So that's the best way for me to tell you to figure out your bust, then go 1 and 1.5 of that and pick that size. And then watch the waist, obviously, but that's gathered as well. So you can see that there's not a lot of difference between the sizes, and you're going to do fine. You just don't want to get it too big. So if you've done the 1.5 and you're not sure, and you're between a couple sizes, have a tendency to go down. Okay, there's no sleeve in this, so not a lot of difference between regular and W sizing. Okay, Do you prefer to use Ponte Roma knit instead of Ponte knit? Ponte knit, just for the record, is 100% polyester. It's a terrible fabric. Horrible fabric. So I don't know where your source is that's saying Ponte knit, but I wouldn't put Ponte knit on my worst enemy. Ponte Roma is a big difference. It's the whole knit. Now I realize it's confusing out there because some places might not know the difference and they might label a Ponte Roma as a Ponte, but I would not. I wouldn't buy from those sources. Ponte is a very thin polyester. Ponte Roma is like the older weaves. It's more like a double knit kind of. All right, on your pants patterns, do you use a standard place where you figure the knee is? Like when you were styling a leg. A standard place? No. I mean, we have a fit model, so we use a fit model, and I think she's pretty darn accurate. But do it on you. It doesn't make a difference where it is on the pattern. It's where this is all styling. So when you go into styling and you want to change the leg, it's going to make a difference where you decide you want to put it. So make up a muslin. I wouldn't start changing styling without making a muslin. It's really helpful to have the muslin. I would make a muslin and then start changing up the leg. Okay? Make sure you have some numbers to go by so you're not just kind of stabbing in the dark. Styling, I think, honestly, I think of the two when you're talking about fit. Fit is kind of a set of rules, and then you're talking about styling. I think styling is the more difficult of the two. It's the easiest to copy, don't get me wrong, but it's the more difficult because you need some kind of experience to get you to styling. You don't just want to pick numbers out of the air and say, well, I want this, or I want, you want it to be a little more realistic than that. All right? Everybody's doing good. It's good to be here. Have the videos been permanently removed from the website? No. Not even temporarily removed from the website. They were at HTML Media. I was going through them. We'll really miss them. Well, they're still there. You don't need to miss them. Just go back. They're there. Not sure why you missed them, but they're still there. If you go onto the very front page of our website and go down to the lower right-hand corner, it says View Our Previous Webcast. You click on that button, it'll open up a whole more videos than you can watch in an evening. How's that? And they're also on YouTube, but you can watch them either place. We have them chronological. We also have a page of all the fabrics and patterns that we used on that website, but either way, they're there. So no, we didn't take them down. You made cargo shorts for your husband and he likes them? I'll bet he likes you too, man. Just, you got to be careful now because, like I said, once you make them, there's no going back. Because they're just, when you go buy them, there's just certain things that you can improve on. And so it's like all of us. When we start sewing, they're a lot of fun. But good, I'm glad. There's nothing that makes me happier when I know that y'all are using the patterns and making them and enjoying them. That's the goal. The goal isn't to sell them. The goal is to use them and really enjoy them. Do you wear that cape to bed? No. What I do is I have the cape like just handy all the time. So what happens is if I get a call like this morning and I have to go be somewhere in 2 minutes for whatever reason, I just throw a cape over my pajamas. And so it looks like I really got dressed, but it's just it's just my pajamas underneath. So that's why we're going to do the cape. I'll show you the cape. Actually, the other reason we're doing the cape is it's on show number 412, the PBS show, Fit to Stitch. It's on number 412. And I had so many questions about it. I said that I would do it Monday on the webcast. We'll do it toward the end. And I'll just go through and draw out the pattern, and then there's 2 seams that you sew, and that's it. But it's great for going somewhere really quick and just trying to feel like you're a little bit not in your pajamas. Is that cape a good idea for a beach cover-up? Yes, that's what we actually did. We did it as a beach cover-up because it covers your arm. You can be you can kind of hide completely underneath it. It's really, I love it. This original was an Eileen Fisher, several $100s, extremely creative, great simple little project. We've got some other things we're going to go through first, but we'll get to it. We're good? Okay, so again, because I really wanted to, this is June. June is when the kids get out of school or they go to summer school, but it's education. It's all about education. So we're going to focus a little bit on education. We've run that special with the DVD. You get the pattern of the month. Question, sorry. When you sew for other people, how much would you charge for a blouse 600 or the yoga skirt? I can't answer that. There's too many variables. You know, where you live, who else, there's just a million variables. What's my favorite? My most favorite season of Fit to Stitch, probably 100. Probably 100. It was the beginning. It was the beginning. I had all these years and all these experience, and I had an opportunity to do a public television show. What was I going to do? And to me, 100 lays the base. That doesn't mean we didn't come back and do some other things, because I only had 13 shows and I was limited. But that very first show and the very first season of Fit to Stitch, taking the pillowcases and turning them into bodices, I think by far is probably my favorite. And I decided then, if I only got to do one season of Fit to Stitch, I would die a happy woman knowing I had gotten that information out. So that's probably my answer. Hadn't thought about this before, but anyway. Doug finished another George's shirt. Yay, yay, yay. Right before the webcast. Start to finish. It only took him 4 hours. He's really getting good at it. He can probably beat me, so we're not going to have any contest here. Way to go, Mr. Doug. And for those of you who don't know, Doug, his wife bought Fabric and Pattern to make him a shirt, and like all of us wives or girl, whatever, all of us women, we had great intentions. We got the fabric, we got the pattern, and we just didn't quite get it done. So Doug took charge. Boy, Doug took the fabric, Doug took the pattern, and he said, I can do this, because he's watched the webcast. They watched them together. And he said, she's got all the instructions, I can do this. And Doug made his own shirt, showed it on Facebook. So we love Doug. We salute Doug, because Doug's doing what Doug wants to do for himself and leaves us more time to do for ourselves. So now that update is that he's now made another new shirt, and it's down to 4 hours making a shirt. And that's just really cool, really exciting. And remember, after you do the first one, you don't have to deal with fit anymore, so it's just sheer fun and sheer sewing, and your sewing skills really get better and better. So good to hear from you. Thanks. Can you give a specific example using numbers for the 1-to-1 and 1/2 rule for ease? Yes, I can. Let's just say you want a gathered skirt, and your waist measures 30 inches. You want a full skirt, gathered skirt, etc., etc. Most ready-to-wear women's measure 1 to 1.5. So I would take that 30, cut it in half, make a 15, add the 30 and the 15, and I would make the pattern 45 inches, make a casing, make the elastic, pull it in, and that would give me a 1 to 1.5 ease. 1 to 2 is generally done in home deck, and 1 to 3 is usually done in children's, or vice versa. I can't remember, it's been a while, but 1 and 1.5 is very standard in women. So if you see gathers on something and you like it, you could just measure what it's gathered into, take that and go 1.5 times that, and you can pretty much figure out what the pattern was to start with. 1 and 1.5 is very standard for women's apparel. Okay, so I want to start first with just simply just kind of the base of moving darts. And the reason I'm going to move darts is because when I was doing my homework on pajamas and comfortable things we wear around the house, many women out there, this is George's shirt, the one that Doug just made. It's 6012 is the pattern number. They love a man's shirt, or just a shirt that has no fit, no nothing, no darts. Victoria's Secrets does this, and they'll do a contrasting band on the inside so that it's like if it's a print, it's a solid band on the inside. So what that calls for is it calls for the moving of darts. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to move a dart. And just in this particular case, I'm going to move the bust dart to the waist. All your basic bodices come like this. In women's apparel, it's a bust dart and a waist dart. So, and there's two methods of pattern making. One is called pivot and one is called slash. I'm going to tell you that the slash is used most often. I'm going to tell you that it's more accurate and that's why it's used more often, but I still want you to have a base understanding as to why and what it is. So I'm going to, on this little chart here, it's this dart that I'm going to move. So, and it doesn't matter really where you start tracing, as long as you trace all the way around. So, and you're going to stop and start in the same place. So I'm going to start tracing right here, and that's at the waist dart. And I'm going to come up, and I'm not doing this real accurate, I just want you to understand it. And I put the mark right there. I put my pivot point is the bust point. And when I do that, I close up that dart, and then I continue tracing. Now remember, I go all the way around. I just have to remember that I start and stop in the same place. Whoops, whoops, whoops. See, you can see one of the big negatives. One of the big negatives of doing it this way is it's not as accurate, because I'm going to show you the other way. Alright, and then I come back and I start and stop at the same place. Okay, so here when you take this away, you can see that this opening here, the bust dart is gone, and the opening here is much larger than what it was in the first place. I'm going to kind of show that close to you. Here's the original, and here's what it was now. And the bust dart's gone. So that's our new pattern with the bust dart moved to the waist. Alright, so the reason I want to show you that is that's called the pivot method. Now that doesn't have anything to do with the alteration methods. The alteration methods that you have, those have all been made up. Those are not pattern making. I don't know who made them up, but they've all been made up. What this is now is this is a slash method, and I'm going to make two slashes. One is going to go where the dart is being moved to, and one is the dart that's being moved. And both of those slashes are going to go to but not through, again, the pivot point, and I'm going to close this up. Okay, same thing I did before. Now, when I go back to this, and I lay this together, I have the exact same thing, if you notice. Exactly the same thing. Except the slash close open was much faster than tracing around the whole thing and much more accurate. So I just want you to be aware that both are viable options, both are great. Just I would recommend when you're going to move a dart, if you're going to make a nightshirt like this, I would use a slash method. Bust dart, waist dart, close up the bust, move to the waist. It's released, it's not stitched, you just have extra fullness there at the waist. Alright? Perfect. Okay. Do you want me to... Maybe this is off topic, but could you give me pointers on narrowing darts from your patterns to fit a AAA cup? I have a double mastectomy. You don't need to do anything, because blouse sizing and cup sizing in bras, they're done two different ways. You still use your cup sizing when you choose your blouse, but there's nothing smaller than a B. The reason being is because I measure from the base of the neck to the waist and the shoulder to the waist. So the smallest it can be is a B. So it doesn't matter if you're smaller than that, still use the B cup. It will work really well, promise. Okay? Alright, how do I change the French dart back to the bust dart and to the waist dart? So you would take the French dart, you would slash it to the bust point, slash where you want the waist dart to be, slash where you want the bust dart to be, close up the French dart, and it will open up those two places. Alright, let's go back to this for just a minute. Alright, if I have a French dart that's here, by definition a French dart is in the lower third seam. So if I close up this bust dart and close up this waist dart, that's what gives me the French dart. So when you do this, you don't know how big the bust dart's supposed to be and you don't know how big the waist dart's supposed to be, so how we correct this kind of stuff when we do it is we drape, okay? Unless you have a base. I mean, we have a base, obviously, so we know what they're supposed to be. We generally, when you drape, you don't go from when you draft, I'm sorry, you don't go from French dart back, you go from the base to the French dart. But I mean, you can do it any way you want, but that's why I couldn't tell you the size to make that dart. Okay? Okay, so I want to talk about facings a little bit, because what facings are and the role they play is they finish an edge. So I'm going to go back to this piece for just a second. Whenever you trace a facing, you trace the raw edge, you trace however wide you want the facing to be, and then you connect. So let's say I trace this, and that's my facing. I mean, very simple to do. It's called a fitted facing. I don't have to have a facing on anything, especially in our clothing today. There's been so many great alternative ways that they have come up with ways to finish edges, including not finishing them at all. But you have to kind of be aware on what edges need finishing and what doesn't need finishing. So this is a robe I made. So this is pattern number 850. Now I've done this before with I have one of these. I did a new one because I wanted you to see the fabric. This is made out of the Giraffe Pontoroma. It's a really nice Pontoroma. It's kind of a spongy little fabric. It's perfect for this. And I did pattern 1850, which is the quilted jacket. So you notice that I didn't do the sleeves as long. It's a kimono, so it's perfect for a robe. I've had so many requests for robe patterns, and I keep thinking to myself, you don't need it to be on the front of the cover in like robe fabric to be able to use it for a robe. This is a robe. This is, it can also be a jacket, but oftentimes it's just the fabric. So again, and what I did with this is I just made a long tie belt. So I just took the width of the fabric and made the belt as long as the width of the fabric. Just again, do double your waist, and that should kind of work out. And then normally on the pattern, this is a front and a front facing, and so instead of doing that, I just serged the edge, turned it under, and top stitch, because I don't need a facing. So you don't need a facing in any fabric. You're the one who decides how you're going to finish it. When we do a pattern at Silhouette Patterns, I'm the one who decides how it's going to be finished. So there's many times where I physically go see the garment because I want to see how they finished it. I want it to be similar to the product I'm duplicating. But it doesn't matter. So in this case, there was a back facing, a front facing. I left all that out, and all I did was serge the edge, turn it under, and top stitch. So you can see it's a really lightweight robe. Again, if I have my pajamas on, I sleep in black yoga pants on a regular basis. I can just throw on this little thing over, wrap it, and go out the door. And I'm going to tell you, there's many times where I'm not even going to tell you that I've been to workshops in my pajamas before. I got up late, you can't help it sometimes. But I am going to tell you that it's funny to me how many times I've been somewhere in my pajamas and I'll just throw on a jacket or a little robe like this. So I say, oh, not y'all, but someone will say, oh my gosh, I just love that. That is just so cute. What a cute little outfit. So these can be actually pretty impressive. And again, you want to make them out of great fabrics. They don't wrinkle. You throw them in the washer, throw them in the dryer. Very low maintenance stuff. They're going to wear out because you're going to wash them and use them a lot, but that's okay. You can make another one. So this is really fun. Very easy to do. You've just got a front, a side front, a back, side back, 4 pieces. and then you just got the tie at the waist. So you can see how long this took. It's very quick to make. It's a great style, kimono sleeve again, so just cute as can be. And you can change the facings. You can make the facings whatever you want them to be. Alright, again, if it's exactly one piece to one piece, it's called a fitted facing. If it cuts from, say, like the neckline to a shoulder to an armhole and has both seams in one facing, that's called a shaped facing, and that's a little more complex, so I'm going to cut this up and lose it forever. But basically, if a facing incorporates the neck edge and here and just has some kind of funky little line that connects them, that's called a shaped facing. It's a little more difficult to do a shaped facing. Sometimes they'll do this in a sleeveless garment because they'll use lining, or they'll use one fabric for this and then lining for the rest of it, and they'll use the actual real fabric for this, and then they'll start with the lining and under this. If you start looking at clothing that you wear, clothing in the stores, you'll see a lot of shaped facing. The negative is they have to be sewn exactly correct. But rather than having one facing for the neck and one facing for the armhole, they combine those together, and that's what's called the shaped facing. Okay. Alright, so now let's go back to facings. We know how to do those. We know how to move darts. The French curve. I know y'all know how to use French curve. Alright, wondering if you have sewn any team garments using official team fabrics. Absolutely I have. I wish I could say I haven't, but I have. Many years ago, but I have, yes. Yep. How do you keep the robe from opening above the bust? Mine is silk and opens all the time. If it opens above the bust, it's because there's too much length here. So that's the beauty of using cup sizing. Even though y'all don't think cup sizing is playing a role on our patterns, it's playing a role in is here as well, because you can see how flat this is. It's flat all the way. There's no gapping in through here. If there's gapping in through here, that's your cup sizing. But you can fix it by taking a dart here, taking it to nothing at the princess seam. This is a princess seam pattern. Look at 1850. What are the rules for dart length and angle? I had to increase the size of the dart significantly on 500, and now it's hard to sew and look good. When you're dealing with pattern number 500, and we've got a special going, and we're including 514 in the special. It's called the pajama package. It's on the very front of the website. 514 is the tank top, and it has a dart. I don't have a sample of it. Has a dart coming right from the side seam. The space between the side seam and the bust point sometimes can be short enough that if the dart gets really, really large, it's too short a space for too large a dart. So if you'll take the dart, well, I'll just explain it. My piece is really wrecked up. If you'll take the bust dart and just move it down, and that's exactly why I wanted to show you how to move darts. Cut the bust dart to the bust point, and then just move it down like a few inches, because the longer the distance it has to the side seam, it will still do the roll, it will still take away the extra length, but it will give you a little more graceful distance to sew the dart to nothing. So if it just doesn't lay right and just doesn't sew right, a lot of times in workshops I'll just move it down and go down 3 inches. Cut a place there, close up the bust dart, it'll open up the new dart down lower, and then try sewing that, and you'll see, you'll like it much better. It's a big improvement. But you just got too much dart in too short a space when it's at the bust, okay? At the side seam. The pattern number in the black and white is 1850. It's called the quilted jacket. It's going to be in this little package. 1850 is quilted jacket. And it's in our pajama package. Alright, then we're going to look at French curve. I want you to, I'll hammer this French curve home as long as I can, but the French curve is going to follow the neckline, the armhole, the hip line, the waistline, all your decorative lines, all your lines that you decide to draw from one side to another. They should all be following the French curve. whenever you draw a line, you should have this right at hand. It should absolutely be right there for you. So don't kind of just make up lines. Use a French curve, have it at hand whenever you're working with patterns. That's where it should be. When you go to change a neckline, use it. When you go to change an armhole, use it. We've got lots of DVDs up on how to use a French curve. I'm sure we've got a webcast on how to use a French curve. Just don't eyeball lines like that, okay? All right, I want to talk about buttonhole and buttonhole extensions because there's many times where we add them or take them away. So I'm going to use this t-shirt. This is pattern number 195. This is one of my favorite pajamas. I'll talk about the neckline here in a minute. Hold on for that. But the first thing that I want to talk about is buttonholes, because I could take this 195 and I could make it a button-up shirt, and we have it as a cardigan in the pattern. And so what you do is you take the radius of the button that you want to use, radius of the button plus 1/4 inch, and you add that amount to center front, and then plus a seam allowance. So you add the radius of the button plus 1/4 inch plus your seam allowance, and you just add that to center front, and then you have an amount that will fold over. Very easy to do, but you should know the amounts, because I've just had so many emails where you didn't do it right or you didn't add enough and you can't get it closed. That's just a basic rule of patterns. Adding buttonhole closures, taking them away. If you're going to add a buttonhole closure down the side of a pant, all cute little things you can do to change up the pattern. Buttonhole closure at the shoulder seam. It's the radius of the button that you want to use plus 1/4 inch plus the seam allowance. That will get you where you want to be. Very simple to do. All right. When we talk about bias, we talk about and I'll come back to the neckline on that, just hold on. We talk about a 45-degree angle. And how we can create that on a pattern is by using this French curve. This French curve has a grid. It's a 1-inch square. And the reason that 1-inch square is important, and the reason why we put it on the French curve, is when you take a straight line like this and you take a square 1 inch, I'm going to take any square, doesn't matter which one, but put the top of the square there and the bottom of the square lining up to the straight edge. And when you do that, you get the perfect bias. So I've got a square inch, one is on this portion of the line, one is on the bottom of the line, and that is what creates my bias. So if you're doing it on patterns, that's how you lay the bias down and make sure that you're doing exactly 90-degree angles. Use a square inch on the ruler, put it on a straight line, any straight line on the pattern, and you can create the bias from there. And as we know, bias creates lots of great effects, especially with skirts. We get lots of beautiful impacts by using that bias. Okay, a little while ago, even though t-shirts don't have bias, I took the print and put it on a bias, changed it up completely. It really makes just a big difference. Okay, now let's talk about necklines. And that's this one that I want to do for you. Remember that necklines and collars are not the same. So a neckline simply means that I have changed the neckline. A cowl neck is a great example. A cowl neck is a neckline. A collar means an actual added piece of fabric has been put onto the neckline, and then I need to know the relationship between. But as far as a V-neck goes, I need nothing. And I did this, the reason I did this shirt is because it's so common when you go look at night shirts, they're V-neck. They have a little band on them, and there's a little dart right there in the middle. So I wanted to duplicate that whole look. So I took the sweater set 195 and I flared it out at the bottom. So you take the center front and you put it on the fold just like normal, but just push out the bottom. And I added a couple inches in the front and a couple inches in the back, so I got the fullness that I wanted because I wanted it roomy. I didn't want it any more roomy through here, but I wanted it roomier through the base. Then what I did is I took the French curve. See, that's what the sweater set would look like. And so I laid the French curve on another t-shirt I liked, laid it down. A V-neck is not a straight line. It's a slight angle of the French curve. So you want to use the French curve to create that line, and then I take it away. And then I went ahead, I put a fold over elastic on. You can't have a V-neck without a little dart right there in the middle. And you can look at any V-neck in the store and you'll see just a little tiny stitch dart on the inside. It's very small, it's very fine stowing, but it's very easy to do. So just put your fold over elastic all the way around, and this makes a great little night shirt. And then again, I've slept late and I want to get somewhere really fast. No time to change, and so you can just add a little belt, and that great little t-shirt just looks really cute. There you have it. Nobody would ever think this was the shirt you'd slept in the night before. And this particular fabric is 100% cotton. I would use cottons. I would use fabrics that are really comfortable and that you really like. Throw them in the washer, throw them in the dryer, start all over again. This is really easy, quick sewing, low maintenance garments that just look good. I call them indoor-outdoor indoor-outdoor clothing, right? It has a French dart. It does. That's what will prevent all the gapping. A lot of women misunderstand darts. They doesn't have to be tight to have a dart in it. That's the vertical darts. The horizontal darts or the French dart will give you no gapping in through here, but it'll give you shape. So even if it's full, it will still look really good. We want you to look really good behind closed doors and just look a little better when you step out. How's that? Anyway, that's just a great idea, real easy to do with a little V-neck. So you can take, I started with the sweater set, I made it into a V-neck, made it bigger at the bottom, made it into a V-neck, and added that fold over elastic at the neckline. Is a bust dart usually perpendicular to seam, or should it angle up and down? A bust dart has no rules about the direction. Any direction of the bust dart is styling. The only rule of the bust dart is that it go into the bust circle and can't go past the bust point. The bust dart in a princess seam is at the shoulder. The bust darted, I mean, you move the bust dart all over the place. So don't limit yourself thinking that it should be perpendicular or parallel to anything. Any of that is just bad information that you've acquired over the years, and it's limiting. So don't limit yourself to any of that information. Okay? What does curving a French dart do to the pattern? If you curve it inward, it takes out a little bit more. If you curve it outward, it takes out a little bit less, but you're still taking out the amount. Again, I'm going to go back to this t-shirt for just a minute. You have to understand what a dart is. The bust dart is taking away length at the side and not at the center. Let me say that again. The bust dart, that was my favorite show, the Fit to Stitch 101, the very first show we ever did. We kind of went through darts. If you haven't watched that, you need to memorize that show. If you're sewing for yourselves, you have to get a handle on darts because they're so simple if you understand them. But you got to understand them. So the horizontal dart, what it does not change circumference. It changes length at the side. And it takes away length that is not needed here but is needed at the middle. Waist darts, vertical darts, take away circumference. But horizontal darts do not change circumference. So recognize those two, and then you can, control the different aspects. Okay? Okay. Can I remove the hood from 875? People ask me stuff, can I, all the time. Oh, I mean, it's impossible, No. Jared asked me, is that another pattern? No, it's not. It's too complex. It's not a complex question, but it's too complex an answer for me to tell you how to do that. That goes into pattern making, not fit. Is that fair? What we're going to do is stay with fit, not pattern making. You can't ask me pattern making questions because I could do nothing else in life but answer your pattern making questions. So where I draw the line is, I'll help you with whatever fitting issues are going on, but I can't help you with pattern making. You can buy the resources and you can do it your own, but I can't possibly help you all on how to remove a hood from the pattern. And I think that's fair. I think you all think it's fair. I think sometimes you don't think about it. Often though, I get asked, and I misread that in the beginning, I get asked, can I do XYZ? And I always think to myself, well, I can, but I don't know if you can. And I mean, you can if you know how. And I often answer, you can if you know how. But you have to know how. And so again, I can't go into telling you how because that's pattern making. And I hope you all understand that I'm not trying to do anything other than try to answer all these fitting questions and draw a line as to the styling questions. You're on your own to do that. But I always say try it because what can you do? The worst case scenario, you screw up and you learn something new, and it should be a fun process. Should be a fun process. You learn, even if you fail, you still learn. All right. On your website, you have a French curve and a Curvette Plus. What is a Curvette Plus? This is a Curvette Plus. A Curvette Plus is a French curve that has a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So what you can do is if you lay this section down on your neckline, this adds the seam allowance for you. This is a 3/8 inch wide all the way around, and it just makes that seam allowance. It just adds it much faster than what you normally would. All right. Okay, now let's go. Sorry. Do you take the dart before you put the binding on or after? No, after. After it's sewn all on, the dart is made right in the middle. You can't have a V-neck without that dart. You'll get a big U-neck. I don't think it's called that, but you'll get a big U-neck, and then what makes the U-neck into a V-neck is that little dart. You'll see if you guys just pay attention to a V-neck you have. You've probably just never paid attention before. Look on the inside, look at the bottom, and you'll see a little stitch right there. It's very simple to do, but it's pretty darn necessary. Okay? All right, so now what I want to do is this shirt over here. Love this shirt. What I saw, this is pajamas again, remember? 100% cotton. This is called the stained glass. I'm in love with this. It's just so pretty. 100% cotton. Sews absolutely beautiful. I had more fun sewing on this fabric because it's cotton. It presses so beautifully. So I decided to do a couple things. Because pajamas have curved collars, I curved the collar. Can you all see that? I curved the collar. So this is pattern number 350. It is part of our pajama pack. We did a little pajama pack. And so here's what the collar would look like. Here's the neck edge. And remember I said collars and necklines are 1-to-1. So you don't change anything down here. You just curve right there. It's all styling. You just take and curve it from this point to this point and make your curve. And you do that to both the upper and the under. I added a little binding in there because I wanted that black to kind of show up a little bit more, so I just bought just a little cotton binding that you just buy at the store. A good idea. And here, so you can see that collar a little bit better. It's just adorable. It's so cute. And then what I did is I did snaps down the front. So 350, I cut 13 inches off the length of the sleeve because you can see here I didn't want it to be long. I just wanted it to have some sleeve but not go too long. And then what I did, because again it's pajamas, remember these are pajamas, if I turn this around I have a little lace back. So I took my red lace and I made the back of it lace, so it's just really, and if I go out I'm going to put a little robe on over it so it can be kind of fun at home, and at the same time I'm going to put something a little bit over it because I'm not going to go out in my lace see-through whatever, but it's just kind of fun. And I put snaps down again because it made it look more pajama-y looking. Actually not really, but I love this top. I think it's so cute, the collar. Anyway, you might see me someplace in this, so if you know it's my pajamas then you'll catch me. I'm going to have to make new pajamas so you guys won't know what my pajamas are that I've worn to workshops. Alright, so the lesson here, the pattern lesson is that when you're styling a collar, don't change the neck edge to the pattern. That's the same. Just style the curved edge or the outside edge. You can do either of those two, but don't change the neck edge and the ratio between the collar edge and the neck edge. Okay? Notice the collar is shorter. Let me put this back because you can see that the collar stops short of the neck edge. So the collar actually measures less than the neck edge. You don't even have to know that, but You just have to know, don't change that, just go with a curve. I could have curved that. I just decided I didn't want to. I liked it square, and I really liked the square and the curve. This is stained glass again, it's the name of the fabric, and I like how it had all curved edges, and so that curved collar, I just thought it looked really nice. Okay, are we good? On the tank pattern, if you go from the neck shoulder point to the center, this is a different distance on the equivalent measurement on the back piece. I don't even know what you're asking. I can't help you on that. Sorry. I mean, the equivalent distance on the back piece, you got a bust in the front that's not on the back, so I'm not understanding the big picture of what you're trying to get to. Sorry. What is the easiest technique to track your original seam line when an inch is added for draping purposes, then using the Curvette Plus to take off excess back to 3/8? If you are adding seam allowance to the pattern, I would just mark it. Just mark 1 inch seam allowance. I think, is that the question? I would not leave anything to memory. I don't leave anything to memory. I write everything down. So if I'm adding extra seam allowance, I write it down so that I make sure I have it and I make sure I have it correctly. What is a good pattern to start with if I want to make a nightgown? I would start with 195. I mean, again though, is it woven? Is it knit? You guys, I get a lot of questions, and I feel bad sometimes when I answer back with a question when you guys ask me a question, but like somebody the other day said, what's the best fabric to make 4200 a sheath dress out of? I mean, oh my gosh, the sheath dress is such a basic that I could have gone on for days. And so, you know, is it casual? Is it dressy? Is it knit or is it woven? What's your anticipation? What do you want? So you got to have more information before you ask that question. And I get that it's a dialogue. So if I ask you back a question, like, don't get offended. Just recognize that it's a learning process. In order to help you, I just have to have no more information. On one webcast, you mentioned that if you scoop a neck is too wide, you can take a dart to nothing at the center top. Do you take a dart in the back also? No. No, you got a bust in the front. That's what's causing the gap. There's generally not a problem in the back because the front is at a greater angle than the back is. It doesn't mean all the way across the board. There may be some fitting issues in the back as well. But if we had apples to apples, no, I'd change the front simply because of the bust and not the back. Alright, so let's do this cover up I've got on. I want to go through this and make sure that you understand it. I have to declare in the beginning, you guys, that you will not understand the process if you try to understand it and then do it. You need to go through and do it step by step by step. You're going to just trust me that if you go step by step by step, it's going to all work at the end. If you try to understand it, you can do that. I'm just saying it might be a little confusing. Okay, so having said that, here we go. Alright, I'm going to start with, I took, and I used an easel pad, you know, like a Staples easel pad, and I cut 2 pieces of paper, and those 2 pieces of paper are 26 across the width, 2 layers. You gotta have to start with 2 layers, 26 across, 30 down. Okay? So 2 layers, 26 across, 30 down. Alright, step 2. Keep them even at all times. Right now, keep them even. You'll break them apart in a little bit, but for right now, keep them even. On the top layer, I measure down 13 inches. I measure down 18 inches. I draw a diagonal line. and I put a B on there because that's going to be seam B. I also put a grain line on there because that's going to go, if you're doing it like a top like I have on, and it has a stripe to it, that's going to go with the stripe. With the stripe is going to go right there. And you can also mark on this side up, and the piece that you're cutting apart, you can write on that this side up. It's very important that you can't flip these pieces. It's going to take you 2 yards to make this top, and these are both the B's. Alright, this angle is the stripe, and the bottom of this second piece, the straight edge is the stripe. That's what's going to create this really great illusion. And I'm going to tell you honestly, I love this little top. I mean, this top is amazing. Again, I didn't create it, you all know that. Somebody really was pretty ingenious who created this. So my hat's off to them because I've loved copying it, I've loved wearing it, it's really fun. Okay, so 13 down, 18 down, make a diagonal line, the B sews to the B. This is straight stripe here, this side up. This is the other stripe goes to the bottom, this side up. Okay, you're going to cut those two pieces apart, and then you're going to cut a triangle away from this point. You're going to measure on this piece remaining 18 inches, so it's actually the bottom piece. You're going to measure in 18 inches, and you're going to draw a diagonal line, and you're going to cut off this piece. You're not going to use it, you're going to throw that away. Okay? You're going to mark that A. That's seam A. And then if you go back here, this is seam A. So A is straight there, A is diagonal on this piece. That's it, that's your pattern. Okay, now with the two pieces of paper, you're going to tape it together at the top so that this creates one long piece. But keep in mind, it's this side up, and there's your stripe. And when you go to sew, you're going to sew two seams now. B goes to B, you're going to do right sides together, and you're going to see that's where the angle comes in because the bottom piece has been put straight on the stripe here, and this has been put on a stripe like this. So this whole piece is kind of cocked off at an angle. So these are going to be right sides together. You're going to sew them there. And this is piece A, and this is piece A over here. And when you go to sew it, where's piece A? Sorry, hang on one second. I gotta find piece A. Sorry about that. What did I do with piece A? Hang on just a second. I'll find it for you, and when I find it I'll tell you again, because if I can't find it, yeah. Okay, so when you took away that triangle at the bottom, this piece here that you cut away, that was piece A. That was seam A. So seam A, they're marked there, goes to this seam A. And when you are sewing it, remember that the right sides need to be together. You're going to start at this edge. And even though this distance is not the same, it doesn't matter. You're going to stop there. Okay, so you're going to sew that. This is B, and this is going to sew to this over here. And then I'm going to tell you a few other things to help you in the process. So see what happens is that makes a circle. If I go right to this makes a circle, and that's your neck edge. That's the neck edge. Keep in mind this is the outside, so I put that the back neck is on the inside, and that's where I put my label. And the reason I put my label there, Jared, can you hand me a pin? Sorry, can you give me a pin? Hang on one second, I'll show you where that label goes when you get to the actual pattern. Just a pin, no, just a pin. A pin, yep, sorry. Hold on one sec. I want to pin this on because you have to understand kind of the the bearings of where the pattern goes together. Alright, so that's where the label goes. That your neckline was formed. And so if we go back to the original pattern, remember that when I laid the two pieces of paper down together, there's your inside back neck. Right there, that original 13 inches that I measured down to create the diagonal fold, that's your inside of your neck edge. So that's where the label can go. So when you go to put this on, you'll see that that's the back. Because this is skewed, it will create the cowl in the front. That's what creates that cowl also. The side is open. You can see that it's open across here, and it'll hang over at an angle. Alright, now having said all of that, you got to do it. You cannot like say, okay, I have to get it all before I do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay? It is on YouTube. We put the beach cover up, we called it, and it's show number 412, and we did it on YouTube. We put it up on YouTube because so many people had so many questions. But even after putting it up, they still have questions. So the reason I went through it step by step was so to clarify any of that. Having said all that, you guys good? It's only confusing because you're not doing it. If you just do it, I'll tell you what, I'll go through the step by step. There's only 3 pattern steps and 2 sewing steps. That's it. So don't really try to get it. Just make sure you understand each step. Is that a deal? Okay. So the first step is I have 2 pieces of paper, same exact, that measure 26 across, 30 down. Is that right? 26? Yeah. 26 across, 30 down, 2 layers. I'm going to tape these together and make it one piece, but y'all know now that's later. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 13 inches down on the top layer, 18 inches down on the top layer. I'm going to cut a diagonal. It's just a rectangle. And when I cut the diagonal, this is going to be, both of these are going to be B's, and this top layer goes with the stripe. It's going to be this side up, and the bottom piece, the stripe goes with the straight edge, but it will also be this side up, and this is going to be the B seam, and this over here is going to be the A seam. I take that away, and I just cut off one angle. That's going to be the A seam also. On this piece now, this is the B seam, and I've taped it all together. And that was 13 inches down and 18 inches in. That's when I cut off the angle. Okay? So now I've got A on here, B on here, A on here, B on here. This is one side up, this is one side up, and I've taped this together now, and I've got one long piece. I put this to the stripe. Okay, then all I do is sew the B seam together, right sides together, just like it was. The only reason you're cutting it is so that you can change the angles of the stripes. And then I'm sewing this A to this A here. And what it makes is a neckline. And you can just serge and tuck this under and hem it all. And that's the back. You can see that's the back. This is the front. And then all of this is just finished by serging and top stitching. When you wear it, I don't want to get too complex, but this angled line will actually sit on the shoulder, and this portion will come forward, and that's what makes it so interesting. So all you have to do is do that, and when you get to the end, you'll have the top. Okay? So again, don't try to understand the big picture, just go step 1, step 2, step 3, and work it down that way. Does that seem a little bit better? You don't need to see the stripe. The stripe just goes with the straight edge of this portion of the pattern. When you put it on a fabric with stripes, this is what aligns to the straight of the stripe. You've got 2 lines. So this one's angled, this one's straight. This is where the stripe goes on that piece. On this piece, this is angled. This is where the stripe goes. You're going to put it straight with the stripe, and that will create all the interest of the pattern. Does that make more sense? Yeah, again, you guys just do step by step. Don't try to understand the big picture. It's fun top. Yeah, so there's a seam here that's the one that comes forward. It's just fun. I mean, you can see that the whole reason of turning this piece on an angle is it puts the whole entire top on the angle. And I used obviously a really fun creative piece so that it would have lots of, but any stripe, here I did it with this one right here. Let me show you this. I've sewn the two pieces. This is the neck edge. And let me put it on a mannequin so you can kind of see what it looks like. This is great because it's 100% cotton knit. So it's really going to be a fun fabric to use. And remember that there's a little bit extra, so what you get is like a cowl neck. Okay, that's like that. So this extra hangs down in the front, and you can see the stripes go all which direction. You can see it's open here on the side, just like mine is over there. And it hangs at an angle. It's closed on the one side. The triangle is right here. I cut it off. It's so that the back would come toward the front. Otherwise, if you didn't cut the triangle off, you just have a regular shoulder seam. Cutting that triangle off brings the back toward the front. It also, if you notice the stripes in the back, the stripes are going this way on part of it, and they're going this way because there's a seam right there. This is seam B. So they're creating those stripes to go two different ways. And then that just hangs off the shoulder. Okay? Go back to the measurements, you guys. I did all the measurements. Just hit replay and go back over it. I did all the measurements twice, so you shouldn't have any problem with the measurements. It is a fun top, and again, it's on PBS as well. So I think all you have to do is make the pattern and then know the B's and the A's and just sew them together, finish the edges. Everything's finished with a 3/8 of an inch turned under, serged, and top stitched everywhere. On the side, this opening over here, I just did a 3/8, and every raw edge is just going to be serged, tucked under, and top stitched. And I know I told you we had way too much planned, but I wanted you to understand this. And again, I understand that you won't understand it if you're just trying to get it. But I promise you, if you go step by step, I had 3 people doing this step by step, and they all go, oh, I get it, you know, as they went along. So it's really important to do it as you're going. Okay? The name of the fabric I'm wearing is gone. We had it, I don't know, a little while ago, but it's gone. This we have, it's called, this stripe we have, and it's called, you need 2 yards. It's called, I don't know, it's brand new. We just put it up. Just got it, just put it up. Denim Blues, yep. All right, 2 weeks from tonight is 4th of July. So hopefully you'll be out grilling with your family or watching the fireworks or doing nothing of that. Maybe just chilling, sewing, or watching whatever. But anyway, we won't be here, but we'll be here the following week, which is July 11th. We've got lots of educational specials for you guys. So then we'll see you back here in 3 weeks. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.